every property is a good investment. Matter of fact, some of them could actually destroy your cash flow, waste your time, and trap you in a bad deal for a long, long time you can't get out. Today, I'm gonna talk about 10 type of property you should never buy if you wanna actually build wealth through rental property. I've been investing in real estate for over 30 plus years. I've done single family luxury home, I've done fix and flip, I've done wholesale, I've done multifamily, I've done basically apartment building, I've done it all. And I can tell you, there's some good property to buy and there's some property not to buy. And I've made a lot of mistakes, years of headache, years of losing time to realize the type of property you should not buy and you should buy. Also, now mentoring over 4,000 students. I see so many students make so many mistakes, cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars before they came see me. And in this video, I want to show you and really highlight, if you stay away from these type of 10 property, you can save a lot of headache and time and energy and money. Property number one, never buy a property on a busy street, especially a busy intersection, okay? Let me tell you from experience. When you buy a property on a main drag, lots of cars, lots of traffic, lots of noise, buses up and down, always traveling through here, and it makes it tough to rent the property. Family, when they rent to a family, they don't like to feel unsafe, okay? And you know, if they want their kids to play, they can't play in the front yard, they gotta play in the backyard. Hopefully you got a backyard. Now, the other thing I realized is, if you ever want to actually rehab a property, put a fence, remodel the house, on a busy street, it's hard to actually have trucks stop and do the work because you're blocking traffic. So a lot of expense, a lot of work where you own a property on a busy street. When you rent, the rents are always lower than a house that's off the street. And also when you sell, it's also lower also. So these are all the things right here that keep that in mind. Life experience, I never buy a property on Main Street ever again. Property number two, never buy a property in a flood zone, especially rental property. So here from experience again, and I got a bunch of students right now that also have the same exact issue. I was talking to my friend Thach and Shannon over here in Tampa, Florida. They also said that they don't buy, rental property or property in the flood zone over in Tampa, because every time the wintertime come or hurricane come, those areas always get hit and the water always is always higher than other area. So the house always get damaged some way, somehow during the wintertime or some kind of hurricane or anything. And here's the thing, when you're in a flood zone, they charge you more for insurance, they charge you more for property tax, they charge you more for all this kind of things that you didn't have to pay for. And it's harder to get renter also in these areas because they don't want to have their property, when they're renting, their personal property stuff damaged. So stay out of flood zone, folks, make your life easier. Property number three, never buy rental property in a D neighborhood. You gotta hear me talk all the time, A neighborhood, B, C, and D. A neighborhood is the super high-end neighborhood, okay? D is the opposite neighborhood, okay? And then C and B are basically in the middle of the high-end and the tough neighborhood. D neighborhood, here's what I realized, okay? They are a little more high crime. They have tenants that are more in subsidized, right? So when their tenants are subsidized, basically there's more maintenance, right? There's more work to actually have rental property in these areas for tenants that are on subsidized. In those areas, the market tends to move slower. It doesn't appreciate as fast, and you have lower rent and lower appreciation. So if you're gonna invest the same time and energy and money, buy it in the C and the B neighborhood so you can get better return. Property number four, never buy a property that's in a historic area, or more importantly, not designated as a historic property. I remember I made an offer on this fixer-upper, and it was designated as a historic property, just like that property right there, okay? And it was a fixer. And what I did was I actually made the offer subject to an inspection and a feasibility, because it has some land to go along with it. Well, come to find out, during our time, there was a historic board that said, sorry, you cannot paint the house however color you want. It has to be a certain paint, and you cannot remodel the house how you want. You gotta leave it in its own original structure. Well, the old structure didn't allow me to add more bedroom and bathroom and change it so I can get more rent for it. So that was messed up. And then lastly, I couldn't add more units on these property because they didn't want me to touch the historic surrounding of the land either. So thank God I did a feasibility, otherwise I would have bought the property. I couldn't do nothing to it. I would have lost a lot of money on that. Property number 5, never buy a property for short term only. And let me tell you what I mean by that, okay? Look, 2 things. 1, if you out there and you're looking to buy an expensive home, something like this, okay? If you calculate, hey, based on my down payment, 20%, whatever it is, and you go, oh, on a 30-year fix, on a long term, it doesn't cash flow. But if I do short term, I can make a cash flow. That's a bad mistake. You should always calculate, all right, when you do Airbnb, long term. If you can be positive and long term, okay, I mean, you're buying the right property for the down payment and the cash flow. And if you choose to do short term, it's the bonus, but never reverse. The other thing is never buy a property that someone has short term and is selling you on their property at this price with the short term operating on it, okay? That's a bad idea. I can tell you many stories, but I remember talking to someone said to this person, I know, hey, you can buy this property for $400,000 and it's already an Airbnb going on in it. And this person got sold. What happened is they bought the property at $400,000 when the property should be worth only about $300,000, $325,000 max. After they bought the property, they realized that Airbnb wasn't as good as that other person sold them on, and they bought a property and they can't get the Airbnb number like they say they was getting consistently across year after year. And so by the time they decided to sell it, they couldn't sell for what they paid for the property. The property was only worth $300,000, $325,000, and they lost it right when they sold the property. Property number 6, never buy a condo with high HOA. So here's the thing. There's a lot for me to talk about here, okay? Usually the HOA due is proportional to the value of the property. So if you have a high HOA and you're in a good area and you have a property that is actually nice, is a higher price point, that's normal, but it has to be proportional. You have a $1 million condo and you're paying $2,000, $3,000 a month of home dues, that's too much. So I'll give you an example on a lower end. In Seattle, there's condominiums that are probably like $300,000. And they have like a $300 a month in home dues. That's a lot, okay? And the reason why, because it's an older building. And an older building, there's high maintenance on it. And so they charge higher HOA because they want to collect the money in case the building get to a point where it needs renovation. They don't have to call everybody to go and put money in then. So the home dues get higher and higher and higher the older the building get. The other reason why I don't like buying property in HOA, because you don't know when they're gonna raise the HOA. You don't know when they're gonna, ask you for more money. And HOA, they limit you on basically what you cannot do. House number 7, never buy a property with a bad design or bad floor plan like this. So, folks, in real estate, street appeal is everything. Look, if you're selling a house, when you drive up and you see actually a design like this, do you stop and be excited to go inside and take a look at it? Or do you just keep on driving? It works the same way when you own it as a rental property. If a guy want to actually rent your property, pull up, and it's not attractive from the outside, it doesn't look appealing, it doesn't look exciting, they're not going to be interested even pulling up, let alone watching the pictures or the video you have or you promoting the property. And on top of that, bad floor plan. If you got a bad design, you're going to have bad floor plan. So if the house don't have a good flow, you don't have the right size bedroom, bathroom, don't force yourself to buy these as rental property. Keep walking, find yourself a better property. Property number 8, never buy a property next to a school. All right, so here's a high school, okay? Now, I tell you, it's crazy. I had a home before I actually bought, fix and flip. It was next to a school. And, I had it nicely remodeled, beautifully remodeled. And when I put it up for sale, right, I didn't have a lot of buyers. And with not a lot of buyer, I didn't get the high offer on this property. And the biggest reason why, because every time 8 o'clock in the morning, there'd be a car lined up, dropping off their kids. And every time around 2:15, 2:30, there'd be a massive car picking up their kids. And so people who don't have kids that go to school in that area or that grade, they don't want to be around all of this traffic, either a primary home or a rental. So let me show you this. See this? These are people that live in this area. They got to put cone all in front of their property because they don't want nobody parking in front of their property. So if you're a renter and you live in one of these houses, right, you're not going to be very excited about all these cars coming here. So again, If people ain't excited, you buy a rental property in this area, you're not gonna get the most amount of people want to look at it for rent, let alone give you the most amount of money to rent the property. Property number 9, never buy the overbuilt home in an undervalued area. Oh man, this one's a big one for a lot of investors. If you're gonna buy a rental property, if you're gonna be in a D neighborhood, don't go buy the most expensive property in the D neighborhood. If because it's nice, because it's your personal taste. Oh my God, I love the house, I love it. You're not buying this for you to live in, you're buying this as a rental. So you buy the most expensive property in that area, right? You're not gonna cash flow, let alone good luck on selling it one day because you need another dummy to buy the property like you, okay? The other thing, if you buy a home in the undervalued area and it might be a fixer, and you're gonna spend a lot of money fixing up and make it the nicest home in the area, it's the same thing because you're gonna be overvalued for the area and it won't cash flow also. And again, when you ever wanna sell it, you're gonna lose money on it. So don't be the dummy to buy the most expensive home in the area. Property number 10, never buy a luxury home for rental. Folks, remember what I was talking about? Don't buy rental in the A neighborhood, which is the luxury market, and a D market, what I call the really, high crime market, okay? When you buy in a very expensive area, an expensive home like this, okay? You have to put down 50, 60, 70% sometime just to make a cash flow. When you get to this level right here, these luxury homes, actually, for a renter, they're winning. You rather actually not buy the property. You rather just go rent the property. You can live in a real nice house for cheaper in rent than it is to buy it. Because if you buy it, you're gonna rent it, right? You're gonna have to put down, again, a lot of money to actually make it cash flow. That is not using your money for the highest ROI return. Here's a quick bonus tip for you also. At the end of the day, never go after cash flow property only, okay? Remember I said there's A, B, C, D neighborhood. There's A, which is super luxury. D is very, very tough market, B and C. If you're gonna buy a rental, buy it in the B's and C neighborhood, the everyday neighborhood. And find it in an area where they have cash flow and it has good appreciation. I know a lot of people only go for cash flow and they buy in a really D neighborhood. They don't care about appreciation. Folks, I'm telling you, if you spread the appreciation out 10, 20, 30 years, the appreciation of property is gonna be a lot more than just the cash flow only if you don't have a property in a good area that build cash flow and appreciation. So don't go after cash flow only, try to find a market where you can do both. Real estate investing is the best vehicle out there to create long-term wealth, especially if you know what you're buying. You gotta make sure you stay away from these 10 type of property I just mentioned today if you wanna actually create long-term wealth without getting hurt and losing a lot of money. So that's a wrap. If y'all like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you have any other question or any topic you want me to discuss, put that in the comment. Until then, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Tell all your friends about my channel so we can hit 1 million subscribers here as soon as possible, all right? Till then, have an awesome day. Peace out.